Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is 22nd of September 2021. These are the issues that we will be discussing in detail during the course of our show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi, who is on a trip to the US and says that Pakistan wants a strong relationship with the United States of America beyond counterterrorism and Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the US troops from the neighborhood country of Afghanistan. He was addressing, of course, a session of the Council of Foreign Relations in New York. He stated that both countries have mutual areas of interest to build a more substantive and broad-based relationship. This is what our Foreign Minister said. We'll be talking about the gamut of relationships between the United States of America and Pakistan and how they can improve in the days to come. In our second story, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the Indian conspiracies against Pakistan, whether it be the fake news that have been generated time and again by the Indian media outlets and India against Pakistan to, of course, put Pakistan in a bad light, whether it be what happened as far as the New Zealand's cricket tour teams tour being cancelled at the very last moment, and Fawad Chaudhry's media brief in which he detailed about how all of this emanated from India, from fake emails, from fake identities that were created from India, proofs of which he showed in that press brief along with the Sheikh Rashid Ahmed Saab, our Minister for Interior. Whether it be also other conspiracies that are happening in India as well, especially in the latest wake of which we have seen that Indian opposition have alleged Narendra Modi for involvement in smuggling of drugs after 3,000 kilograms of heroin and 21,000 crores worth of drugs were seized at Gujarat's Mundra port, which is being operated by a friend of the Premier of India and financier Gautam Adani. 25% shares of Modi are also present in the port. A lot of question marks emanate when it comes to India's role in the region and India's role itself. And despite all of that, the international bodies do not raise a hue and cry. This is going to be our second segment. Then we'll be talking about, of course, what is happening across the world. We'll be talking about Pakistan that has been elected at the Board of Governors of the IAEA for the period 2021-2023. This election was held during the 65th session of the IAEA General Conference that was held in Vienna. Amongst the Board of Governors, not only Pakistan has been elected, other countries such as Colombia, Finland, Ireland, Libya, Republic of Korea and Vietnam have also been elected. And we'll be then talking about the 10 billion Tree Tsunami initiative of Prime Minister Imran Khan that has been lauded by many other premiers across the world. But the latest in that list is the British Premier Boris Johnson, who has lauded the initiative of Prime Minister Imran Khan while addressing the United Nations General Assembly. And finally, we'll be talking about Samsung Electronics, that is, of course, as we very well know, a South Korean technology giant, which is in the process of establishing a TV lineup plant in collaboration with a local partner in Pakistan, which will be producing 50,000 television units per year. These are the stories that we'll be discussing during the course of today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with our first story, first segment that concerns the relationship between the US and Pakistan, how that can be improved, and what is the gamut of relationship that can be worked upon between the US and Pakistan in the wake of what our Foreign Minister has said in the US during his tour. More in the following report.
Pakistan-United States bilateral ties periodically test the resolve of both countries towards their partnership amid fluctuating strategic flux. Islamabad has persistently advocated to augment the scope of partnership from narrow geopolitical prism towards sustainable, broad-based, mutually beneficial cooperation. Reiterating Pakistan's resolve to widen the scope of Pak-US ties, Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi, while addressing a session of the Council on Foreign Relations in New York, noted that Pakistan wants a strong relationship with the United States beyond counterterrorism and Afghanistan. Calling to build the Pak-US bilateral relationship around economic security, Foreign Minister Qureshi asserted that Pakistan wants to leverage its connectivity infrastructure, including CPEC, to enhance regional trade and economic integration, and US will be an important partner in this regard. While inviting American investment in Pakistan's green ambitions, Foreign Minister Qureshi suggested that Pakistan's climate-friendly energy policy offers tremendous opportunities for US companies specialized in clean and renewable energy. As US withdrew from Afghanistan and purportedly pivoting to East Asia, the time is ripe to reorient Pak-US bilateral relations. Pakistan has proved its ally credentials in Afghan endgame and smooth US exit, but the shared interest of both countries go beyond Afghanistan, such as broader counter-terrorism initiatives, achieving green goals, economic partnership, sustainable development goals, pandemic cooperation, and steps for strengthening people-to-people contact. Geopolitics renders this dynamic relationship transactional, and as Pakistan's geoeconomic ambitions are vividly constructive, it's high time to reorient narrow Pak-US partnership towards economic security paradigm.
Now, Pakistan-US relationship has seen different ups and downs over the last few decades. We've seen downs like the Pressler Amendment in the past, and we've seen ups in the huge cooperation between the two countries, of course, in the past few decades as well. Now that the US presence is diminishing in the region with the exit of the US forces from the neighborhood country of Afghanistan, it is, of course, pertinent that the US-Pakistan relationship that has seen a lot of positives in the past continues in the same vein, and this is what has been reiterated by our Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi in New York. And he's, of course, on a trip to the United States of America. He was talking at the Council for Foreign Relations in New York, and he said that both countries have areas of mutual interest. There are a lot of areas of mutual interest that both countries can work upon and have been working upon in the past as well. One of the major areas of convergence was peace in Afghanistan in the past, and of course Pakistan's efforts need to be lauded on that front, because it is due to the Pakistani efforts that the Afghan Taliban and the Afghan government got together on one negotiating table and the peace talks could move forward. Now, to talk more about the whole relationship between the US and Pakistan and how this has changed and could change in the future now that it has exited from Afghanistan, we've been joined by Dr. Salma Malik. She's a foreign affairs expert. Dr. Saiba, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saiba, Pakistan-US relationship is sometimes extremely complex and sometimes it seems quite simple. How do you foresee it?
It's going to be a very difficult time ahead for Pakistan because the dynamics of the relations between the two countries are going to significantly change, have already changed, and we are kind of seeing a prelude of what is happening. So starting from the exit of US forces from Afghanistan. And mind you, these last 20 years were also not a very easy time for Pakistan, because the mantra of do more and perform better and all of those things haunted Pakistan like anything. But now it is going to be something different, because it will have China as a very active agent in affecting Pakistan and US relations. And Afghanistan as well as Pakistan is again going to become a proxy war front in which India, the US and the Western powers are going to actually increase a hybrid effort against Pakistan, because US needs to have someone to blame for its failures in Afghanistan, and Pakistan appears to be the best available option for the US. So,
Dr. Saiba, when we talk about the role of Pakistan, let's not forget the fact that Pakistan has been instrumental for, of course, a situation in Afghanistan that has come about recently without much violence, if we see. Also, Pakistan has been on the forefront for bringing the two factions of the Afghan government and the Afghan Taliban together. The US has time and again lauded Pakistan's role as far as Afghanistan is concerned. But now that Afghanistan is more or less out of the question, are there other areas of cooperation, as has been enunciated by Shah Mehmood Qureshi Saab, that can be worked upon? Or do you feel that Pakistan will bear the brunt of this tension between China and the US?
Unfortunately, I would opt more for the second point that you have said, bearing the brunt of the US-China Cold War that is going to happen, because obviously US cannot hurt China the way it can hurt Pakistan. But the fact is, in these two aspects that we have seen recently, the New Zealand cricket team going back, the British cricket team calling it off, this appears to be that subtle undertones of telling Pakistan that outside cooperation and any of these soft policies are not available for you, and you're going to face the music. the US also, towards the end of Afghanistan's exiting from Afghanistan, put Pakistan on the child soldiering watch list and all of those things. So Pakistan has to be very careful, and we have to be very, very cautious about what we are going to face in the future. We should be under no presumption at all that things are going to be better. Things will get worse before they get better.
All right.
And for that,
You say
we
things
need
will
to
get
have
worse before they get better. We should also not forget the FATF and the grey list in which Pakistan is currently as we speak. And that has also a US influence behind it. Also, when we talk about the whole situation in the region, how can we not forget our Prime Minister not allowing the US to use its soil for drone attacks into neighboring countries such as Afghanistan? Do you feel this is also one of the reasons why the relationship between the two countries might touch a cold end?
Omar, you see, the thing is that these are small tools or small dominoes in a picture that is getting worse by the day. So you take out one pixel and there's a small gap there, there's a small missing dot, and you put all of these dots together, and that creates an entire holistic picture. So we cannot ignore any of these small developments that are taking place. But at the same time, if you want to flip the card, then we also see that these small pixels, where they make the larger picture, you can also turn and do something better with it. So I think
What can we do in order to turn that picture, flip that coin, as you say, as far as the relationship with the US is
I would
concerned?
say that number one, we have to be extremely pragmatic about what the turn of events are. We also need to see no emotional rhetoric. We also need to see how the game is being played at the global arena, and how do we make ourselves a viable and a strong actor in the upcoming game. I think the Prime Minister was correct in saying that we don't want to allow Pakistan's soil to be used against any country on a reciprocity basis, and that is a very, very important aspect, because Pakistan, unfortunately, has paid a very high price, and there are no laurels for what Pakistan has done. Rather, all of these armchair analysts in the US, they come and they say that, oh, Pakistan has a duplicity policy and so many other things. Having said that, Pakistan needs to put its priorities in order first, putting our house in order, and also
When
seeing
you
how
talk of putting
what and how the
priorities in
region is
order, Dr.
working.
Saiba, what kind of priorities are you exactly talking about?
Well, number one priority is our economic and governance. I think we need to strengthen these two aspects. The coming days, we might actually end up the way the international community is trying to down the game in Afghanistan. We might have a situation where more Afghan nationals would not only come to Pakistan for transit, they might actually come to Pakistan for refuge. And that is going to give rise to yet another major regional crisis. There's going to be increased instability. India, the US, the Western powers together, to cover up their failure and also to counter China in the CPEC BRI situation, are going to use Pakistan and going to hurt Pakistan's geo-economic interest. So if we have a poor economy, that is going to hurt us a lot more. So we have to be very, very cautious and prudent about our economic policies. We need to have a very pragmatic diplomatic front, and responsible statements from the right type of people, not everyone becoming the expert or the spokesperson for the country. And we don't need to get provoked and react to each and every provocation emanating from any corners that are coming. So very cautious, very well guarded, well thought out conversation needs to be brought out from the Pakistani front, because in case we need to play an important role in the coming days, and in case we need to enjoy the benefits of CPEC, then we have to be very clear as to what our priorities are. We
All right.
can't keep on riding two boats together and thinking that, okay, let's patch up with the US. In case the US is not interested, let's give them a break and see how things work out.
can there be a methodology through which Pakistan can balance its relationship with China and the US? Can't we work, together as far as economic relationship with the US is concerned? Can't we work, as our foreign minister has said, on climate-friendly energy policy, which of course might interest a lot of US companies, but it also depends on the US interest in Pakistan, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely it does. But that's the main point here. Pakistan needs to have a positive relevance for the international world and the international order. And at this point, what are relations with the bigger powers? And that's the mainstream behind Pakistan-China relations, that we are trying to have a strong economic relationship with them, which is on a two-way path. With the US, it has more been a transactional relation, a cliched word that we have always used with regards to our relations with the US. But then we also have to be slightly introspective and see as to what we can order to the international community at this point. And I think smaller steps, such as peacekeeping, such as other aspects. And one point that I raised here, which has a very strong legal significance, is about the US concerns over child soldiering, which is going to affect Pakistan's UN peacekeeping efforts and its peacekeeping engagements. And that is one very strong point for Pakistan, which is part of its soft diplomacy, and that is going to get hurt. And we also know as to which countries are lobbying in the US, especially India, that is trying to hurt Pakistan from all perceivable quarters. So we need to have an extremely sharp outlook as to what is happening around us and try and build an overall framework of diplomacy which is multi-sectoral and it has priority areas well chalked out to make Pakistan a force to reckon with.
Last question, Dr. Salma. I'll quote again Shah Mehmood Qureshi Saab, who said that Pakistan and India should fight poverty instead of each other. He also talked to Zalmi Khalilzad Saab, talking about Afghanistan and all. Doesn't the US acknowledge the fact that Pakistan is always trying to forge a better, a stronger, a positive working relationship with the other countries of the region, and it is sometimes and most of the times the other countries that are playing the role of spoiler?
You're absolutely right. You see, if we look back 1 decade, 2 years, 5 years, 1 decade, 2 decades, Pakistan has always given some very, very positive statements and reconciliation gestures to India, which have never really been acknowledged neither by India because they don't want to acknowledge it, nor by the international community, especially the West. In fact, I would appreciate President Trump's efforts when he offered mediation when it came to Kashmir and other things. None of the American leadership has ever done that.
True. But do
Yes.
you, I mean,
However,
if I were to ask you, Dr. Salma, in one phrase, how optimistic you are of any kind of a relationship between Pakistan and US that we could term as positive, what would be your response?
At the moment, it is not going to be a very rosy picture, but in the long term, if we move pragmatically, small steps, important small steps, realizing what is happening around us, I think this is not an irreversible situation. There are always ups and downs in US-Pakistan relations. Perhaps we're going to sliding down towards the down, and we're definitely going to go up again. And our relevance is going to be there, but we have to dictate how we want to become relevant. And I think positive relevance is something which is going to be highly sustainable, and we must work on that.
Positive relevance, I'll take that point as very important, as the key point from this segment. Thank you very much, Dr. Salma Malik, to have joined us, to have talked about the relationship between the US and Pakistan, on how we can make it a stronger and a positive influence in the days and the months to come. Nevertheless, there are certain shortcomings that both countries, especially the United States of America, needs to work upon as far as bridging the gaps or the lacunas between its country and Pakistan is concerned. Let's hope it stays optimistic that way. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, is about the Indian influence, unfortunately not in a positive manner, but more or less in a negative manner, not since now, not since a year, but since decades, trying to malign Pakistan one way or the other, trying to destabilize Pakistan one way or the other, whether it be through EU Disinfo Lab report, whether it be through all the different tactics that it has used internally, externally, through Afghanistan, creating disharmony in Pakistan, or whether recently it be the evidence that has been shown by Fawad Chaudhry Saab and Sheikh Rashid Saab in a press meet as to how India was behind the cancellation of the tour of New Zealand at the very last moment. That and more we'll be discussing in this second segment, but before that, a short report.
India has unilaterally imposed a holistic war on Pakistan, one that encompasses everything from bombs to bots. The shocking, cruel face of saffron terrorist regime was exposed again by Pakistan as Islamabad presents incriminating evidence of Indian mischief behind New Zealand cricket team's sudden abandonment. Federal Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain, addressing a press conference in Islamabad alongside Interior Minister Sheikh Rashid Ahmed, unravelled that the device used to send a threat to New Zealand cricket team belonged to India. Debunking malicious Indian designs to tarnish Pakistan's international standing, the Federal Minister for Information, Chaudhry Fawad Hussain, revealed that a fake post was created under TTP militant Ehsanullah Ehsan's name back in August, which warned the New Zealand Cricket Board and government to desist sending the team to Pakistan as it would be targeted. Highlighting the dubious role of Indian media, it was divulged that an Indian media outlet run by BJP member apparently knew about the fabricated security threat to New Zealand cricket team almost a month ago. This gory conduct of self-styled democracy unravelled not for the first time, as startling revelations of a report titled Indian Chronicles divulge abysmal details of Indian propaganda against Pakistan. EU Disinfo Lab researchers who are based in Brussels exposed a vast Indian network which was designed primarily to discredit Pakistan internationally and influence decision-making at the UN Human Rights Council and European Parliament. Through a vile propaganda operation against Pakistan, the Indian government is trying to divert global attention from human rights violations and illegal actions taken by the Indian government in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Thus, India is practically at war with Pakistan, and perceptions, information, propaganda, and fake news are tools of this fifth-generation warfare.
Now, to talk more about this Indian propaganda that has been going on since decades and doesn't seem to end any day soon, we've been joined by Raja Faisal. He's an international affairs expert. Raja Faisal, thank you very much to have joined us. Raja Faisal, will India ever learn?
They will never, Umar, because if they learn and if they do the right stories and truthful stories, as we consider journalism to be, bringing forth the truth only truth, then they would not be heard anywhere, and their propaganda against Pakistan would fail. So by having the fake news and the nexus of fake news as discovered and as unearthed by the EU Disinfo Lab, where we saw that more than 700 news portals, they were working on their behalf from different corners and nooks of the world, and they were running at the same time, they were running GT as well, Geneva Times. It was considered as one mainstream channels over there, because they hired the European faces to present whatever their narratives were, and we always saw them standing outside.
Such a huge network, just with one aim to destabilize Pakistan.
Destabilize Pakistan, and the hybrid war we talk about. The biggest chunk of hybrid war from the Indian side is Indian media and their fake narratives, especially against Pakistan. And they were against Pakistan before. Now they have, taken up another task, extra hard work they are doing on Afghanistan as well, trying to malign Taliban for everything. And this is disastrous for the region as well, I must say. But looking at this particular story, I mean, they wanted to dent Pakistan because they knew that Pakistan worked really hard to get back to this place. Pakistan, brought in Zimbabwe, then South Africa, then England. West Indies. They brought in everyone, and they proven that we are able enough to secure anyone who wants to, because presidential security was provided to all of the teams that were coming to Pakistan. So when they saw that nothing is working for them, the last resolve for them was to find out the email addresses of the families of the players who are coming here, especially Martin Guptill, who happens to be the opening batsman of New Zealand team and the star batsman. They hit his family. His wife, she gets contacted by someone whose IP address was coming, and the address was being shown as somebody is using a device sitting in India, and this is quite funny and quite disastrous for the region at the same time, I must say. And it's not our problem now, it's not India's problem now, it's problem for the whole cricketing nations. It is problem for the security of the whole world, I must say. Why? Because if they are doing it to Pakistan, then another team is involved and they were wrongly threatened about Pakistan, and I think they should have digged deep into this story, and if they could have done that, then the situation right now would have been a different situation.
But Raja Faisal, do you really think that they did not dig deep into it? Why isn't there no official reaction coming from the New Zealand cricket? Why is there no official reaction as to what has been unearthed by Fawad Chaudhry Saab and Sheikh Rashid Saab in their media brief, the proofs that they have given as far as the emails, as far as all the details about the names, the places, the IP addresses, and the link of India is concerned? Why is the world keeping quiet on it? Did they know? Is this a deliberate attempt to sideline Pakistan as well?
It is, and Umar, I tell you, this is why I highlighted that this should be considered as an international affair rather than just Pakistan's problem. They have to consider it. Why? Because the other teams are involved now. We saw English team, it's not coming. New Zealand's team, it's not coming, just on the basis of fake news which was being propagated by the India.
But the New Zealand was here and it just, left out, gave a statement hours before they were to start their first test.
Exactly, and their captain, a day before their decision to leave the country, a day before that, he appears in one of the interviews and he re-emphasizes that security in Pakistan is excellent, and he actually said that they are being taken care of. And at the same time, what we saw the previous month, we saw one of the fake news portals was used, and in that they had an article written just against Pakistan that there is something fishy and there is something going to happen with the New Zealand team. So they prepared it beforehand, and it seems as if it was a well-planned, well-executed.
But Raja Faisal, if it's well-planned, well-executed, and now that it has been unearthed and opened to the public, to the world, as to the conspiracies that are being headed by India against Pakistan, what is stopping the foreign cricketing organizations to not issue a disclaimer and to return to Pakistan?
Double standards on the basis of, the big pockets. As our foreign minister once mentioned, big pockets are working here as well. BCCI is considered as the biggest cricketing organization that is putting money towards the ICC. And remember, they had the big three. And the big three are the ones who are making all of the decisions. So I'm afraid if this had happened with one of the big three nations, let's suppose, I'm not threatening India, but what if I say that a day comes that if somebody is having IPL or if somebody is having a foreign team coming to India, what if they have their own fault lines as well? I must say about Naxals, I must say about the Khalistan movement, Kashmiri movement, any one of them, if comes and drops couple of grenades outside of a hotel, outside of a cricket stadium or an airport, what would they do? They will be implying on double standards.
The first country they'll imply is Pakistan. They'll say it's Pakistan that's behind it, as they have done, as they've always been doing in the past. Let's also come to Afghanistan and what the Congress leader Sunil Ahire has tweeted about rupees 900 crores worth of heroin seized at Gujarat's Mundra port. The port is owned by Gautam Adani, who is a very close ally of Narendra Modi, and even Narendra Modi has shares in this port.
This has been long feared, and even there's this myth about it, and there are facts about it as well, that Punjab and Haryana, where Sikh population is they are well they have good money and they are well off. what they do is they keep on sending these drugs there. But that is not the case here. You know, the case is that this illicit business is going on, and somebody who's very close to Prime Minister of India, Modi, and he's doing it. And who knows that India's elections, they are getting that kind of illicit money, especially BJP's elections. They are using the same money, the drug money, and this does not end here. There are certain certain statements which do come from the Indian side. Especially being a journalist, I come across so many sources within, and I appear on Indian channels, so I have so many people in touch with me. And there are certain sources who do say that the incident, the continuous incidents that has been taking place in India of illicit uranium business, selling of 2.5 kg or 2 kgs or 1.5 kg of uranium, that has been going on since a long time in India. And who knows that money is being used in the politics of RSS and in the politics of BJP. Who knows? And this illicit business, it has been going on since a long time. So I think world needs to get into it. And when we see FATF, always blaming Pakistan for certain things, and Pakistan, that
there's no blame ever on India.
Never ever. You know why? Because they have double standards related to cricket, related to every field. They have double standards. They take India as a big market and they don't want to offend it. And here is Pakistan, and even if somebody talks good about Pakistan, they get offended. The Indian leadership, it gets offended if somebody rightly praises Pakistan as well. So this is the case. I mean, I think world needs to intervene, and these incidents must be highlighted on a larger scale.
These incidents have been highlighted by our ministers, by our foreign minister, by our prime minister on different fora. The dossiers have been presented. You remember very well a few months back, a whole dossier was presented on Indian inclusion in all of the affairs that were happening to malign Pakistan and through Afghanistan as well. The whole dossier was presented to the international bodies. The international bodies never say anything because, of course, geoeconomics supersede everything else. But I mean, which will be the tipping point for the world bodies to finally react to all that India has been perpetrating since decades against Pakistan?
You know what, Umar, how I see it, that the regional positioning right now of Pakistan, I mean, America sees Pakistan and the Western world sees Pakistan leaning towards China, and that's where they don't, even if Pakistan does something that is beneficial for the whole world. I'm talking about, peace deal, Afghan peace deal. Pakistan is the biggest contributor in it.
Of course.
And the world, rather than, appreciating it, they are constantly maligning Pakistan of, being behind Taliban. Well, it's
well, we all remember Arnab Goswami and the fifth floor.
Fifth floor, yeah. I wanted to talk about that as well, Then the fake news we get from India is that there is some kind of, alienated fifth floor on Serena.
Where the agencies are getting together.
Where my countrymen, the exclusive countrymen are sitting from the ISI.
When there is no fifth floor.
There is no fifth floor. I think there is a fifth floor based in his mindset.
Exactly.
And I think that's how they are playing. But I think US-China trade war is playing the key role, but Pakistan needs to talk to the Western world that on the basis of truth, on the basis of facts, which Pakistan has been giving in shape of dossiers and in shape of evidences.
In shape of the spy that we've captured from Balochistan.
Kulbhushan Jadhav, I just wanted to mention him as well, that we have somebody who's been, training people, who's been facilitating people.
And he's given every detail about what has been happening.
Exactly. And now when they have no access within Afghanistan, the clear access, I must say, the only access they can have if they want is the diplomatic access, that too from the Taliban side. And Taliban have been asking them to come back to complete, your contracts, the one BRO was having. but they are not willing to go there. Why? Because they had the ill intention against Pakistan.
They have always had that ill intention against Pakistan.
India is the country that wanted a destabilized Afghanistan because they saw a destabilized Afghanistan in their favor. Why? Because they wanted to keep a second front for Pakistan alive, and Pakistan has been very lucky that Taliban's coming there and Taliban's claims, and Taliban kept on saying this, that once they get in charge, of course they will never allow anyone to do any kind of illicit business from there. So I think that's how the shape is.
That is how the cookie crumbles. But Raja Faisal, final question. Being a layman, I mean, not being journalist, being a layman, a very simple question. What is it that irks India against Pakistan? What is it that India does not like about Pakistan, that it is always on every forum trying to malign Pakistan or trying to destabilize Pakistan? What have we done wrong to India?
To be honest, for a long time, we have, I have been appearing in their channels, and we have talked there as well, and I have mentioned it quite well over there, that for 1,000 years they were, ruled by the Muslims, and they have a natural hatred against Islam. I must say, I must tell you that. And even sometimes I get on social media, I get contacted by another layman like me sitting in India. He would straight away say to me, "Why did you become a Muslim?" I mean, me being whose forefathers, they converted to Islam around 400 years ago. Before that, we used to be Hindus, and Sufism, brought us closer to Islam, and we became Muslim. And I get these kind of questions from them. So deep down, I am given an sort of impression that still they are thinking about the same thing. So it's a hatred towards Islam, it's a hatred towards Pakistan, and Pakistan managed to craft a country out of them. That's what bothers them so much. And that Mahabharat, the
greater
concept,
Hindustan,
the greater Hindustan, and that Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh's ideology, it's there.
That is being propagated by the current government.
Exactly, and they want to get it back, and they want to convert it into a massive Mahabharat, and that's what it is.
But Pakistan has been staying strong, and inshallah will continue to stay strong, and evidences will continue to pour in, and will continue to unearth them and show them to the entire world of what India has been perpetrating against Pakistan since long, and will continue to do so because it does not want Pakistan to be a stable country in the region. Thank you very much, Raja Faisal, to have joined us, to have talked to us in, of course, detail about all the facts and figures as to how India has been destabilizing Pakistan. Thank you very much, sir. And now let's come to our next segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns IAEA and Pakistan. We were talking about uranium and how there have been different incidents in India as far as the illegal sale of uranium is concerned. But at the same time, now Pakistan has also been elected as on the board of governors of the IAEA for the period 2021 to 2023. The election was held during the 65th session of the IAEA General Conference in Vienna. Syed Muhammad Ali from CAS joins us online. Ali, thank you very much to have joined us. A moment of pride for Pakistan as well to be on the board of governors, but Pakistan has always been in the good books of the IAEA because of all the protocols that it has been following, hasn't it?
National pride for us is not only a part of the International Atomic Energy Agency, but it's a substantial contributions to the international peace of nuclear energy and promoting international cooperation for peaceful uses of nuclear energy. And this is a matter of great pride for Pakistan because the Board of Governors of IAEA is one of the two key policy-making forums of IAEA. The other one is the General Conference, which you just mentioned. It is a very central and critical role in terms of not only reviewing and approving the program of work, the budget, and also the financial statements. Also, the international community that makes different safeguard agreements, it reviews and approves them, and ensures the peaceful use of nuclear energy around the world. So it is not just an opportunity for Pakistan to benefit on a bilateral basis with IAEA, but also it is an evidence that the international community completely respects and trusts Pakistan's command over nuclear technology and its responsible use to such an extent that it expects Pakistan to play a leading role in sharing and promoting responsible, peaceful use of nuclear energy around the world.
All right. Atoms for Peace and Development, Ali, is also one of the key points as far as the IAEA is concerned. How important is nuclear energy for peace and development, and how do you foresee Pakistan's role as far as that is concerned?
Pakistan, as I earlier mentioned, Umar, is one of the founding members, not many people know, of the International Atomic Energy Agency. And Pakistan has always promoted responsible peace. Use of nuclear technology and also has been committed to the non-proliferation objectives, which means that all those countries who are members of IAEA are expected to adhere to their commitments that they've made to the IAEA. And in this context, Pakistan has three types of engagements with IAEA. First is at a bilateral level, in which Pakistan shares its experience with IAEA, skills and knowledge, and in Pakistan offers its scientists and engineers who serve in IAEA and also are sent by IAEA as inspectors around the world to help, ensure safe and responsible use of nuclear technology around the world. The second is the sharing of nuclear technology under IAEA. Has a number of nuclear reactors under IAEA safeguards. That includes the K2, which was an 1100 megawatt reactor, which came online recently, and another one came online in April. So these two reactors are under IAEA. The third aspect, which governor membership will allow Pakistan, or perhaps the fourth time, part of the decision-making.
All right. I mean, Pakistan's role, Ali, to be very frank, has been very important with the IAEA. As you said, it is one of the founding members of the IAEA and continues to be a member that other countries look forward to, and the proof of which is that Pakistan is again the Board of Governors of the IAEA for the period of 2021-2023. Thank you very much, Syed Muhammad Ali from CAST, who have joined us, to have talked to us about this very positive development as far as IAEA is concerned, of Pakistan being on the Board of Governors, along with other countries such as Colombia, Finland, Ireland, and of course Republic of Korea and Vietnam. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to our next story, and that concerns Pakistan's initiatives to alleviate the effects of climate change. These effects, as have been detailed by our Prime Minister, by our current government, whether it be the 10 billion tree tsunami or not, have been applauded and lauded by the different world leaders. The latest in that line is the British Premier Boris Johnson. Let's hear what he had to say.
I invite everybody to follow the example of Imran Khan of Pakistan, who has pledged to plant 10 billion trees in Pakistan alone, and he's going some. And I think it's very important that we in the developed world recognize our obligation.
Of course, that and many more positive developments that are coming, like the Samsung, which is setting up a TV plant in Karachi, and more that we'll be hearing in the days to come, that we'll be sharing in this very program, that is Newsroom. Till then, we bid you adieu, but nevertheless, keep following the SOPs and get yourselves vaccinated. Allah Hafiz.